All right. Hello, home service pros, and welcome to the Battle Plan Marketing Podcast, episode number 74. Today we have a super special guest on the show, Mr. Kim Hopkins, the owner of the Electric Connection, electrical contracting service business out of the Los Angeles, California area. Been in business almost 40 years. Really a great interview. Kim is going to share all kinds of very helpful and useful tidbits throughout it. The mistakes he made, what he learned from it, how he pays his people, which is awesome, and all the automations that he uses, and so on and so forth. So lots of great tidbits. I guarantee you're going to get value out of this interview. So let's get right to it and welcome Kim Hopkins of the Electric Connection.
Welcome to the Battle Plan Marketing Podcast for contractors. Get actionable advice and tactics on how to grow your home service company. Plus interviews with industry experts dropping value bombs in marketing, sales, and operations. And now let's power up your home service biz with your host, Mark Ambrose of Battle Plan Marketing.
All right. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming on board. Let's dive right in. Tell us what you're doing now, where you do it, who your ideal customer is, and how you help them.
Wow. Okay, if I can remember all those facets of your question there. All right, so look, I am semi-retired at this point, just as of this, when COVID hit, not because my business declined too much, more like I just had already hit that stage. So I'll give you a little background on, we'll go from there. So basically, sure. I used to own a building. And then when COVID hit, everybody had to not be in the office anymore. So Fortunately, I had already been upgrading technologically so that we had a cloud server in the office, but it was in a cloud. We had just updated our phone system as well so that we had a modern phone system, which we could immediately transfer over so that when everyone went to where they lived, we just gave them the phones and we put them on internet.
Nice.
Then we had a cloud server. Didn't lose 1 minute of production and no one knows. And even today, here's the thing. I figured commercial real estate isn't going to do so well in the next few years. I actually sold the building. We never are.
Nice.
We're working.
That's great. Your timing was superb.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I have to tell you that I almost feel guilty. I really feel for the people that have suffered through this time economically. I really get it. And I don't go around laughing and dancing, but for our company, the timing everything was perfect about it.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with being proud and happy.
Yeah, it's a 30-man company. People call, we do like 100 jobs a week, give or take.
Wow, nice.
A little more. And nobody knows. Like they just call us and I've got 4 dispatchers and a general manager and we act like a company that's in a building. We just don't need to be in that building anymore.
That's incredible. So do the trucks come and restock somewhere?
Again, I had the perfect system for this kind of situation. I had already many, many years before it. Like we're in Los Angeles, real estate's valuable. Or another way of saying that is real estate is extremely expensive. So if the last thing I needed is a parking lot with 15 trucks in it to keep the expense of that. So instead, I did something that everyone loved. We give our journeymen a truck completely filled with everything they need to have, and they park it at a secure place at their home.
Nice.
So here's what happens. They get up in the morning, they get in their van, they drive to work, and they're immediately working. It saves about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day of not having to drive to another location where there's a warehouse and they get material. And like, we just don't do that.
That's awesome.
And we, for the last 15 years, have not done it. So
no kidding. So you've been doing that model for a decade and a half already.
Yeah, we have a kind of different philosophy and model of how we do things. But 20 electricians are happy every day working this way. It's very efficient. And
beautiful. How do they stock up, Kim? How do they get new parts?
Okay.
Or if that's secret sauce, you don't have to share it.
No, it's not that. I just have to warn you. Everything about my company is just a little different.
Good.
Based on my whole philosophy was, what would I want to do if I just worked as an employee?
Right.
And I had the benefit of never going to business school or anything like that. So I just invented it along the way, but it always had to do with what would my customers want? What would my employees want? What would I want if I were a customer or an employee? So anyway, the bottom line is the way the journeyman electricians work is we give them a van, and an awesome van. They're Mercedes vans, completely decked out with super customized. We get them, and then we put in about $60,000 of extra things. Like they're the most convenient vans you could have to work with so that they're very efficient.
Nice.
Okay, and when it comes to, we treat every journeyman electrician as if we're partners with them. They're in business with us. And the way that works, they're fully employed. And because of California, we pay them a dollar amount, but also an extremely hefty bonus every week based on profit sharing of all the jobs that we do. So part of that is they get their own material. They go to Home Depot or they go to wholesale houses. They go wherever they go because they're in charge. Everybody that works with a van is a project manager. They're all their own project managers. We do have a field superintendent, but he's there to just assist them at managing their project. They go to a wholesale house, they buy what they need, and the more efficient they are at what they buy, the more profit they're going to make because let's just say we have a $10,000 job, they're going to get a certain percentage of that job. And out of that percentage will be subtracted the cost of the material they bought at that wholesale house on our ticket or at Home Depot on the credit card that we have for them there. Also, they have a helper. Their helper, their apprentice, they also are deducted from their side, their percentage. So they want their helpers to be as efficient as possible. But on the other hand, we also have we insist that they get part of the bonus. So they get a percentage of the bonus that the journeymen get. So they're responsible for buying all the material to answer your question. So we never had a warehouse. We never had that expense, which we can pass that savings on to the journeyman and the customer.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's really, really good. And you've been doing it a long time. You got all the kinks worked out, and you've made many business people out of all your service techs.
Yeah, here's the cool part. Like the philosophy is something like you make every employee as competent as they can be so that they could walk away. They could start their own business or they could work for someone else if they work in the office. And then you make sure working environment is so pleasant and lucrative that they'd think they were nuts to do that. And we have extremely high retention based on those two thoughts.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So obviously you're an electrical contractor, residential and commercial?
Yes.
And is one of those more prominent than the other, or it's a mixed bag?
We do a lot of residential. And even though the permits sometimes say commercial, because sometimes we're working for a property management company, we'll do like $1 million project where we rewire 275 units all at the same time. But you tell me, is that residential or commercial? The permit's commercial, but it's about people where they live. We also do straight out office buildings and whatnot. But I'd say that 85% of what we do is where people live.
That's fantastic. I like that.
And we don't do new construction. It's all about repairing old or modifying old. We're not into the new construction aspects of things.
Gotcha. Well, that's volatile, right? So very cyclical, I should say. So, you're feast and famine with the building industry. And I got a feeling we're heading towards the famine phase sometime soon.
It could well be. My philosophy was work with management companies. If you have property management companies, all they're they break light bulbs. They do whatever they do. They have circuit breakers or they overload a circuit. The cool part is it doesn't matter if it's a recession or if it's a best of times. Ultimately, the tenants do the same kind of thing. If anything, they're a little more depressed recession and they break more things. So in any case, you have to. So we have a pretty steady.
Did you notice work service calls going up in the pandemic since more people are remotely working and stuff and therefore using the property more? Did you notice any bump up?
I would say it hasn't gone down. It's been pretty steady. I think more like what happened is a lot of people would be home and they'd suddenly realize they really do want those recessed lights that they've been thinking about. And so we've done more work And some of that has to do with people working in their offices. We'll run a circuit to a computer that wasn't there before. There is a bit of that.
Oh, I see. I see on your website, Kim, that one of the first things it speaks about is your dedication to quality and your lifetime guarantee. Can you talk a little bit about when you installed that guarantee and how you keep your staff trained? And although it's kind of, I can already feel they're independent business people and they're getting bonused on profits. So I can see where your training is heading there. But can you talk a little bit about that? When did the lifetime guarantee come into play? That's a big move. I'm sure it's paid off for you based on your reviews and such.
Yeah. Okay. So I started the business in 1979, and it was me working out of the back of a car, literally the trunk of a sedan when I started.
Wow.
I was still working for another contractor at that point. From the day I did the first job I ever did, it never crossed my mind to not give a lifetime guarantee on the work. Understand the implication of that is I didn't build the light fixture, So if something goes wrong with the light fixture, I can't guarantee something I'm not responsible for. But when it comes to pulling wire or anything else, any kind of responsibility we have, it's a lifetime warranty on that. And that has served me very well since 1979. The customers, they seem to like that.
Absolutely.
And I have to tell you, it's really changed the focus of Los Angeles electricians. I see many advertisements now that talk about a lifetime this or a lifetime that.
You were the pioneer. So you guarantee the labor, of course, and not the parts, which you have no control of.
I mean, ultimately, the parts sometimes have a warranty anyway.
Right.
And there's things, in 40 years, I've never once had a problem with a wire. So I guess you could say if something went wrong with the wire we pull through, that would also be covered.
Gotcha. I see. If the part was defective or whatever happened.
Yeah, but a bad circuit breaker, that happens occasionally, or like a wall charger or something, I can't. We're not going to warranty that past whatever the warranty is.
Right. So I see, I looked you guys up on Google, Yelp, and Angie's, and I'm very impressed. I see you got about, 1,200 customer reviews, 5.0 on Google, 5.0 on Yelp, 4.9 on Angie's. My question was, what are you training there? But again, I think a lot of it, am I correct? And a lot of it is coming out the way you set your service techs up for success, that they're many business people. So they're all in on the quality. Yes?
They are, because they get paid a very nice figure financially. If they act like a good journeyman, they get paid like a good journeyman. But let's just say that they did something on a job where it didn't pass inspection and it was appropriate. I'll tell you that at least 50% of the time, it's the inspector that didn't understand something. So then the office will back up that electrician.
Nice.
And really, really go to town for them. Really seriously. Like, we'll be talking with a chief electrical inspector in LA maybe at least once or twice a month, just to deal with corrections that were bogus. Because when we have 20 electricians out there, we couldn't afford to change our whole policy and training if one inspector just decides something that's not accurate. So, but that being said, we expect our electricians to act like electricians. So if there's a code correction that they misunderstood or did it wrong, they have to go back, and they're not going to get paid a bonus on the second trip. So clearly, the more efficient they are, the less time it takes to do quality work.
Gotcha.
But the emphasis is on quality, the more profit they're going to make.
I love it. I like the way you set that up. I noticed on your site, you also talk about helping customers solve simple issues over the phone. And you've got a pretty extensive troubleshooting and electrical tips section. I love all of that. So what was your thinking behind the troubleshooting electrical tips section? Was that to attract some organic traffic, or maybe not handle some common, simple, easy to do fixes that they could read? What was your motivation behind that?
Oh, well, the first website we had, whenever the internet actually became something, I built myself. And I'm not a tech guy at all, but Microsoft had this thing called Front Page.
Oh, yeah. I remember it.
So I had to design a website, and I wanted it to look like we knew what we were talking about. So I took the most common issues people had that really weren't necessary to have an electrician come out there, and I made a page way back then. The very first website had the tips. To be honest with you, like, what is it, 25 years later, 30 years later, I haven't changed one word of those that help at all. Like, it's just never changes. It's always circuit breakers tripping off or whatever whatever's on. My idea was I've been fortunate to succeed by being a nice guy. I just have a personality that says, I don't need every dollar from everybody. I don't need to be clever. I just need to provide good service and be friendly and competent and communicate well. And that's part of it. It's just, I feel free. I sleep at night. I'm relaxed. I enjoy life. And
I love that.
That's part of that. It just came out of that.
I love that. The world gives to the givers and takes from the takers. So be a giver.
It's like the golden rule, again, like, what would I want if I were a customer?
Exactly. There's another thing I saw on your site, Kim, that I thought was brilliant also was you have a coupon section, but they don't download the coupon. They don't take a snapshot of it. They put in their name, address, email, or name and email, I think it was. And they can choose which coupons they want. Hit send, comes to them by email. And a little disclaimer there that says, you're signing up for future emails. So I thought that was brilliant. I haven't seen that anywhere else. Really, really liked it because now you get them into your email list. I've been pitching on this podcast for a long time that building an email list is a massive, valuable asset and can really, really drive your business. Do you follow that up? Do you have a regular newsletter that goes out to those people or to your customer list, or how's that working out?
Yeah, well, here's the thing about, in theory, we have thousands of people and it's a cold list. We try to keep it up to date. You do have to be careful when you're sending out newsletters. That people, if they don't like it, then they basically put you in spam and then the search engines don't like you as much. So it's a two-edged sword.
Yep.
To answer your question, in theory, we do have a newsletter and I have a template for this newsletter.
Right.
That makes people not really dislike it. Like, it'll start with a joke, let's say, and then it'll have this and that. It's not very long. But here's the problem, if you want to call it that. We've been so busy for the last 3 years that we don't even want more people to respond to the newsletter. So we're carefully saving all these. And there may come a day, as you were talking about, where maybe there's less business going on. And we're ready to go. Yeah. But at the moment, we haven't sent out a newsletter in about a year and a half.
Wow. But you've accumulated a list, and that list is valuable if you go to sell the company or something like that in the future. You're looking to sell it in the future or pass it to another generation? You got any thoughts there yet?
I do, as always, have thoughts on these, which would be different than the average owner. I have had offers to buy the business.
I bet.
I am not interested, and I have a couple of reasons. One is it's self-serving, and that is because I make a ton of money. I mean, literally, I'm sitting here chatting with you. I've got a 30-person company working. I've got like 9 people in the office or 8 people working away.
Right.
They're working so hard. They're answering phone calls. I'm not. I fortunately have got a great staff now. Treat them well, so they don't want to quit either. And they just want to keep. They have their own bonuses that they also get every quarter based on the profit of the companies. They are highly motivated and they seem to like it.
Nice.
So what am I doing? I'm, like I said, semi-retired, but my income is, let's just say it's pretty much well into the 6 figures. So why would I sell when maybe I can sell it for $1 million, $2 million.
Right.
It wouldn't begin to be what the income is just by not doing anything other than allowing my staff do their deal and pay them well. That's the first reason.
Right.
But more important to me is I have a contract, you might say, an agreement. I have employees. They came to work for the electric connection, and I made some promises to them. I mean, some were intrinsic within the deal of being an employee and me being the owner, but ultimately, I won't say they're like my children, but it's kind of like that where I feel responsible for them. I have to keep my agreement. I need to I have to keep a company for them viable and moving along and making more profit all the time. And they will benefit, and they do their part, and they work whatever their job is and whatever their descriptions are, they do there. So it's a contract, like it's a handshake contract,
right.
But it's nevertheless I will never betray them at this point. In fact, if I can figure out, and I talk to them about it, I say, look, how can you guys run this company? Like, how can, and it's, we're actually working out that amongst the principals in the office. How can we let them just run the show and get a benefit from that? So I'm not going to ever give it up.
I like it.
Somebody has to own it. I'd rather own it, but let them basically run it and get most of the benefit.
I love it. The old saying, happy employees creates happy customers. I can see you put all the value into the employee, let them be autonomous, give them decision-making, loss decisions. And so that's the reason you got 1,200 five-star reviews. It's really nice. So maybe in the future, you make the employees the owner when you're. So I agree. You sell the company in this interest rate environment, what the income will be not what you're probably producing now without taking risk. And I'm sure you love all your people and stuff. So why leave it, right?
Yeah, it's mostly I don't want to. Then they're going to go off and get some average job somewhere and they're not going to be happy.
Right.
It makes no sense. And the truth is, I produce enough income for myself where my wife and I have investments in real estate syndicates all over the country. So I don't even need the money, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of income is generated weekly that can be dispersed amongst my staff at this point. It's like we're a team. They did their part. They've made me comfortable financially. Now I pay them back.
I like it. Reciprocation.
I guess I have a lifetime warranty with them as well.
I like it. Love it. I see on your site you guys install EV charging stations. Do you sell them also or just install?
We have not been selling them because things change a lot.
Yeah.
And also we'd have to mark them up maybe 50%.
Right.
So we basically, these days, we just tell customers, get one off the internet, and then we're going to come install it for you. And we happen to be the number one recommended installer by Tesla. So we get quite a few. Yeah, if you go to their website, we'll be number one on their recommended electrician. So we get a lot of calls, and Tesla has their own charger that these customers typically are buying from Tesla.
I like it. Is the EV charging stations, your customer mostly homeowners or also like apartment complexes or commercial shopping centers that are putting more and more of these in and installing them now? Do you work in that? Sounds like probably yes. My guess would be you have apartment complexes and property managers. Yes?
Yeah, we do some for the property management companies who basically do that on the order of the owner of the building.
Right.
We do that.
Nice.
I'd say that the majority of the projects we do are for we do a lot of condominiums and we do a lot of single family residences. And then when we do an apartment or sometimes a condominium, we'll do like 10 at a time for like an association or whatnot.
Right.
But mostly we're dealing in single individuals as we do each.
Gotcha. They buy the Tesla, you're on the list, they call you up, they get it installed. I was going to ask you about smart electrical panels. New thing, smart homes, right? This is the future where we're going. You getting involved in that at all or a little too early yet?
No, it's sort of like, let's take Ring doorbell. Like that's a whole nother concept in the last few years. It's really gone big.
Right.
And so we've learned, we learn as we go. And yes, there's different kind of smart home, like light switches that can be controlled through your different devices. You can be some other in Afghanistan and somehow you can control your heating. There is some stuff like that.
Right.
That tends to change a lot. So we know how to do it, but we don't specialize in a particular company or a brand. It's more like we just do whatever the latest is. And some things come and go.
Yeah.
You'd think, wow, those light switches, electronic and this and that. And then, Amazon comes out with something where, or Siri, you just say, hey, Siri, dim your lights.
Right.
That's a whole other. But they're actually quite easy to install. So we're up with the technology mostly because it's simple to stay up with it.
Gotcha. Is that the same kind of as the EV stations that the consumer buys the product and calls you to install it mostly then?
Yes, that's exactly what we want. We probably the only thing that we might buy are motion detector lights for outside just because they may not know which one is best for them. And we'll do that. And of course, we'll bring up the smaller items, light switches, and then the core, electrical panels and circuit breakers and whatnot. But if they're going to buy a light fixture, we want them to get the one they want.
Right.
So
let them buy it. Yes.
Yeah.
Let the consumer choose. How about, I see you didn't get into the solar world, and you're probably happy now. A lot of electricians did get into that world. I'm sure many of them regret it at this point. Did you just know this is my core, I'm sticking with it? Or did that solar world attract you a little bit?
Yeah, I could say been there, done that would be the way to say that. It's not the same. Like the electricians make more money than the solar installers.
Right.
In terms of employees and whatnot.
Yep.
So none of my electricians would want to install solar panels. However, I did reach out and see if I wanted to start a different branch of the company. And so I tried and I realized you're chasing the law of diminishing returns. Like the solar is getting cheaper and cheaper. It's easier to install. And so I just don't need to compete with handymen to do work like that.
Right.
Amusingly enough, Tesla now they're called Tesla, but it used to be Solar City. We did get involved with them because we do a lot of main electrical panel upgrades. So all over LA, a lot of times they needed panel upgrades. So there was a point when they were really getting busy. They were rocking and rolling, and we were doing 3 electrical panel upgrades a day just for
nice
Solar City. They finally went in-house, but I'm not sure how many they're doing anymore.
Oh, I didn't know they brought that in-house. It makes sense, I guess.
They went in-house and we still did the hard ones. But eventually, I just don't know how active Solar City is anymore.
Yeah, I don't either. And it is a race to the bottom, the low margins. Consumer really doesn't know the difference between product. They think a solar panel is a solar panel. So there's an educational process going on there too. And again, I think about in Southern California, I'm going to just guess that about 50% of the solar installers are out of business that were in business 10 years ago.
Yeah, it could be. I didn't see any benefit. My philosophy is, look, what is the kind of customer I want has a preference of how they evaluate who they're going to hire. They first say, are they honest and competent? And second, can they meet my scheduling requirement?
Right.
And third is based on 1 and 2, are they providing a good value? Is the price that they're offering? So there are lots of other criteria that customers can have, like what's the cheapest I can get?
Right.
Or, is this guy so new that I can cheat him? There's a ton of ways. And my website is actually designed carefully to weed out those people and specifically attract the people that want 1, 2, and 3 as
I really like that. We talk about that a lot on this podcast too, is choosing your services, sticking to your high margin services, promoting those, and deflecting the kind of customer you don't want. Low margin jobs cost you more to go out on than you're going to make from it. So I like that.
Yeah, that's really good. And I would say that one hard, fast rule we've learned is don't work for contractors.
Right.
For general contractors, their goal is to squeeze out the most they can get for the least amount of money. And also because I won't say all of them, I will say that 90% of them, and there's 10% that do super quality work. And if you like that kind of work, and that's great. We have found it's way better to deal directly with each customer we deal with and communicate instantly. And if there's any issues, like when we're done with a job, within 10 minutes after that's been notified in the office, the job's complete, we've already sent that customer, a reference check. How did we do?
Nice.
Are you totally satisfied? You were talking about reviews. Well, that's how come we have so many reviews. We ask for them, and we actually have a program we've made. It's called the Review Generator that allows us to immediately get feedback from customers from 1 to 5 stars. If it's 5-star, it goes directly to not Yelp anymore because they don't like that, but to Google or other place. And they'll leave a review sometimes, and that's great. And if it's a 4-star, 3, 2, or 1, it doesn't go there. It is a link to not to our website, but to a special email we have that goes directly to someone quality control. And then we're within 10 minutes handling any issue. Even if it's a 4-star review, we want to know, well, what wasn't perfect? Oh, we were 10 minutes late. Okay, we'll send them a coupon. That's one of our policies if we're late at home. But anyway, it results in a lot of reviews and it removes the chance of getting negative reviews. So a lot of people that might have given us a 1-star send us an email with a 1-star instead. The 1-star is sometimes and almost always a mistake. It's like, oh, I thought that this didn't pass inspection. Oh, it did pass inspection? Oh, great. Okay, well then 5-star.
Right, right. So you have the ability to go back and say and ask them to revise the rating.
Well, we don't even have to do that. We just basically handle whatever their issue is, and then they tend to want to make it right.
Just a natural behavior.
And people that are willing to write a review are willing to write.
I agree.
So at that point, it's easy if you stay in good communication with them. But if there is a problem, like, oh, gee, that light stopped working one day later, and then it turns out they blew out their light bulb or whatever it is, but it's so rare that we can afford to send somebody back there, and we'll pay them again if the journeyman didn't cause the problem, and we'll fix it. Then we get another 5-star review.
Right. I like it. And did you say you or your team created that software, or are you using because we use third-party software for our clients as well, reputation management?
I haven't told you that I own a second company that does internet marketing for contractors around the country.
Oh, so there you go. Good for you.
Yeah. And part of that is, we're using now we actually did have our own program, and I'm all proud. I invented this perfect concept of what to do and everything. And then I found out that there's already a company that does a better job at the same exact. It's a lot easier for them to
change it,
maintain it.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Like it saves
Bird Eye, Broadly. We use GatherUp. There's a lot of them out there.
And you know what? On the back end, they're using the same program.
Yeah, pretty much, I would imagine. They all kind of do the same thing. You do have to be careful you're not gating. Google will take you down if you're what they call gating reviews. So in that email where, it's a 1 to 4-star review and they get to a page to give you the feedback, you still have to, by Google's terms of service, have a link in there that says leave a review on Google. So you might want to bring that up with your IT. You probably have it because pretty much everybody does now, but there are still some software out there that does this review gating, and you will disappear from Google Maps if you're doing that.
Yeah, that's absolutely. These have to do with real customers that really sent a review,
right.
And they have to
Yes.
It can't not be. Our system is set up to only allow
that.
Yeah,
exactly. Is there any common myth in the electrical services industry that you'd like to debunk at all?
These are good questions. I'm impressed.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know. I've never a myth. Well, customers, and the wrong kind, by the way, they're suspicious that every electrician is trying to gouge them. And so there's a certain kind of customer that no matter what price you give, they want a discount because they just think naturally the first price isn't the best price.
Yeah.
This is, at least in my company, it's a complete myth. And they respect, the right customers respect it. We just say, well, no, we gave you our best price. Seriously. But of course, if you want to take away this option or that option of this whole contract, we can make it lower. Oh, no, I need that. I want that. Well, then.
Then that's the price. Do you use flat rate pricing at all? Or
we have an entire electronic price book so that we're always the same. This is really important with management companies. It's also really important with any other kind of customer so that, that's another myth certain customers have. I mean, not very many. The most suspicious customers they're suspicious because that's what they would do.
That's absolutely true. Yes.
Yeah, of course. The ones that are friendly and they're, like I said, the website attracts almost universally the right kind of customers. But I want to make sure that my electricians are kept as well on the up and up. So if they go out to a nice house in Beverly Hills, or if they're going to small little houses in San Bernardino or whatever it is, a price for that oven circuit is going to be exactly the same based on the number of feet and the brand of electrical panel they have. And it's all encoded in an electronic price book. So it just happens naturally.
Yeah, 100%. And to every contractor out there, you got to get to a price book. I know it ain't easy. It's a lot of work. First, you got to work with your bookkeeper accountant, make sure you get all your expenses wrapped into your prices, and then you need to have a price book. So exactly that happens. Everybody's on the same page. So that's brilliant. What would you say, Kim, is one thing you wish you knew when you started in 1979 that you know now?
Oh, man.
Or one big thing? I'm sure there's a million things. Is there anything that stands out?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everything. I was such a naive guy back then.
We all are.
A babe in the woods,
Yep.
and I actually wrote a book about contracting. And I think I noted on that every page cost me at least $1,000, that I had to learn something.
Nice. I see. Yeah. What's the title? Is that book available?
I'm going to redo it. I wrote it 10 years into running the business. That's 30 years ago, before there was an internet or whatnot. And so
I see.
I'm actually next year, it's starting January 1st, well, maybe 2nd. And it's going to, I'm just going to revise it to modernize it with internet marketing and various things like that.
Nice.
It'll be available on the internet, I think.
Okay, great. So they just search your name, Kim Hopkins, on Amazon. Will it be an ebook or a printed book, you think?
I think it's going to be an ebook, and I think I have these ideas of promoting it on Facebook and just basically even maybe selling modules of the chapters that matter when people want to know that how to collect money or how to do this or how to do that.
I like it.
So I'd say collections is a big deal. Like promotion and collections, I think, are the two areas that are most not understood by new contractors.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick two, assuming that they know what their trade is when they start.
Right.
Sales is not that big of a deal. Like almost anybody can sell. If
right.
Like promotion is like when your ship sinks and you're in this little dinghy out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean somewhere, and a couple of days have gone by and you're pretty desperate. And then you see in the long distance some ship. It's out there. And you go, oh, man, this is my one chance because I've got one flare.
Right.
I've got one flare. You shoot out that flare and, oh, thank goodness, the ship changes course a little bit and heads over. Well, that's promotion. You attracted them to you, okay?
Right.
Now, talking them onto the boat, that's sales, okay?
Right.
But it's not that difficult once someone gets to a website. If they, in a sense, you've already done the promotion. If they're looking at the website, you did the promotion already.
Right.
Search engine optimization they saw a van go by with the website. So as soon as they see the website, now your goal is to get them to contact you. That's sales.
Yep.
And then once they do that, in my business anyway, anybody that answers the phone can immediately wrap up the sales because they just say, yeah, this is what we do. Yeah, we are honest and confident, just like the website says, and we're friendly. See, we're communicating. Yeah, we can be there next Tuesday. What do you think? Yeah. So everybody's a salesman in my company without a lot of training.
I like it. And I'm glad you spoke to that because a lot of home service contractors, a lot of business owners, period, they think sales, marketing and sales are like the same thing, or I'm not sure what they think a lot. So quite often, I heard it described, marketing is the driver and your irons, and sales is your putter, right? So your marketing is going to get you close to the hole, but then sales is what's going to sink the birdie for you.
Yeah.
And you need both. You can't just, unless you're door knocking, which I guess is still a form of marketing.
Well, actually, I would say that marketing, promotion, and sales are two of the three things that are in successful marketing. They're both marketing.
Yeah. Well, yes.
And they fall in the same category, but there's a third level of what you need of expertise when it comes to marketing, besides promotion, where they become aware of your company, besides sales, where you actually get them to agree to do a job for a certain price. The third part of this triumvirate of ability to succeed is you have to have the dollar amount correct. Like you have to know for your company, it's different for every company. What is it going to cost your company to get that job done? What is your style? Like if your promotion costs twice as much, then you better sell the job at twice as much as somebody else.
Right.
And, a major part of my marketing now, after 40 years, is simply repeat business. So it's essentially free.
Right.
And so that allows our price to be lower, our price point. But on the other hand, when I first started off, I was working out of not even a garage. I was just working out of the trunk of my car. My price was lower as well because I didn't have all this overhead.
Right.
So you can But in the middle ground, maybe I needed to promote by using, back then it was Yellow Pages, and that cost a bunch of money. And so I need to factor that part into, it's not just word of mouth anymore. I need Yellow Pages. I got to pay $1,500 a month for that. X amount of jobs divided by 1,500, that kind of thing. So every contractor needs to figure out their price point. That's successful marketing, because at the end, you better have 10% profit from each job in your bank account after all your expenses, including your own salary. And if you can do that, now you've done marketing in a way that allows your company to expand and move forward to the next job.
Yeah, 100%. So two important parts of that are getting your pricing correctly, given your situation, and tracking, which is another thing we say over and over on this podcast. So you have to be tracking all your marketing efforts. You have to know what's bringing in the calls, right? So call tracking numbers, form tracking numbers, or form tracking on your website, et cetera. Right. So you guys are no doubt using that.
After 40 years, we figured it out, is the thing. Like, we do have a capability with our software that we use for dispatching we can say, okay, where are most of the jobs coming from? And we can then tie that into what is the income for, or we can do income per zip code. So we can know where to market.
Nice. I like that.
But because I have the luxury of, like, if you type in electrician Los Angeles, we're going to be 3 times on page 1. We're going to be, at the moment anyway, we're twice on the map out of 3 people or 3 companies for Google. And then we're like right there at the top after Yelp and the big boys that have
the directories.
Can't beat.
Right. That's awesome.
I've never figured that out with, like, say, Google, why they think it's a good idea to, like, they're supposed to be into producing for the person with the search request the most relevant information, right?
Right.
So, like, let's say I'm looking for a plumber. So I type in plumber Los Angeles, hypothetically. So the first one on the organic is going to be, after a bunch of advertising and a map, then the next, finally there's organic.
Right.
And on organic, it says Yelp.
Right.
And Yelp gives me a list of plumbers. And I'm like, Google, I ask you for the plumber. Like, why aren't you, like, giving me the best plumber that has the most relevancy for me? And these days it's not just Yelp, it's Angie's, and it's Homes, and many other.
The directories. That's because those websites have very strong, what they call domain rating, domain authority, because they have so many links. So links from other websites to yours are the number 1 ranking factor in Google. The more powerful the websites are that link to yours, the more powerful your website is. And then if you design the architecture of your site well, like Yelp and Angie's and Home Advisor, the strength of those websites, I don't know, if I put them in my software with Ahrefs or SEMrush, I'm sure they're like 90, on a scale of 1 to 100, they're probably 90 something domain ratings, very strong websites, which is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know they're being treated equally with, like, a mom and pop shop. But my consideration is Google is, and I think they probably legally are obligated to or something. I know that there was about 15 years ago, some Yahoo brought some legal action against Google over this. But I'm merely saying that there ought to be an algorithm that basically says, if you're a list company,
you shouldn't be in there.
Don't get the same considerations. I mean, come on, it makes no sense.
I agree. And if you're the user, so, Google's working it out to try to get not that I'm a giant Google fan, but to try and provide the best results, like you said, for the search intent, right? And again, the domain power of these websites is why they're up there. I do believe.
Oh, absolutely.
I believe in the long runs down the road, you'll probably see them disappear from there, because you're right. That's for the user. That's a bad return. I don't want to go to another site and have to search there also for a plumber. I want to see a list of plumbers who are near me.
And it even gets worse. I'd say that Yelp is the best of all those. In a sense, their reviews outdo Google reviews in terms of what you can, like, especially restaurants, what you can learn is Yelp reviewers are way into it,
They are.
But I will say that, like, you get into something like Home Advisor, not to mention, well, I just did. But bottom line is, you go down this rabbit hole. Like, they want all this information, and then they haven't even told you about an electrician or a plumber.
Right.
roofer.
What kind of work do you do?
You know, and then by the time you're done, you still don't have one. You have to wait for somebody to call you, and who knows who they are. And
it's crazy. I agree. Yeah,
that's not, in my mind, Mr. Google, that's not the best relevancy for me.
I agree. So, if you're listening, Mr. Google, I agree with that completely. That's a poor user experience, and you're the ones preaching about search intent all the time. So let's see. So how about, is there any giant, we'll wrap it up here pretty soon here, Kim. Any big business challenge or failure that actually turned around to be something awesome or great, very beneficial for you?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, I'm not a policeman. I have the opposite viewpoint. I don't go investigate guys. And so I used to do things in the traditional way. And that meant I paid people by the hour.
Right.
And I provided all the major tools and all the material. I'd buy it and all that. I did it like the normal way. And I was losing money. I mean, I was, in the beginning, I had a van and I would use it on Saturdays to just make enough money that one day for my own needs. And 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I had something like 12 electricians doing commercial work for contractors. I was building these big restaurants.
I see.
You know, like China, you know, all the major things, cheesecake factories and this and that.
Right.
You know, I was a very big, important guy with my company. And I was losing money to the point where I lost $300,000 in debt. And that was back when it would be worth now about $700,000, something like that, in debt. I mean, think about that.
Wow.
And then I got a call one day. I got a call from my bank because it was Friday. I was dying, but I was still able to produce paychecks for everybody. Sometimes my wife and I would literally go to the store and cash pretend paychecks to ourselves, take the money, put it back in the bank so we could write a check for a couple of employees. Man, every stupid thing you could ever imagine has happened. But here's the thing. I got a call from the bank and they said, do you think you could not have all your employees hang out in our lobby for about an hour smoking and talking and stuff after they cash their paychecks? This is like 9 o'clock in the morning. They all left at my office at 8 o'clock with paychecks, right? That's what they did, getting paid by the hour. And I calculated it was like 8 guys times whatever it was back then, an hour for a journeyman electrician. Yeah. And I was thinking, it's like a couple $100 I just spent for them not to be working. And, okay, that weekend, that was Friday. By Monday, I had invented a system that I said, I'm going to be out of business or I'm going to do this. It's their choice. And I had 15 guys working for me at that point. So I told them the new system based on production, and they would get a percentage of the profit and this and that. Okay, and I'm not making this up, I had 15 guys. I had 8 guys by the end of the week. 7 had quit.
Wow.
Okay, but my production didn't go down at all. Not one job was lost, nothing. So the electricians that were still there got 50%, literally 50% more than they used to get.
Nice.
And so did my company.
Nice.
Now I made a profit. And I figured out the same thing with buying material so that nobody could steal tools or material from me. And now my personality matched the company's policies and whatnot. And so I was able to comfortably move forward and have never looked back. I paid off all that debt without declaring bankruptcy or anything, and just move forward from that point on. And that's another big tip, like find the kind of policies and the kind of method that's going to be the methodology for your company, for your personality. Because if you are a guy that likes to snoop around and make sure guys are there and check on jobs, then fine, do it. Then have that kind of company. Maybe pay guys by the hour if that's, and only by the hour. I have to tell you, legally in California, I do pay everybody by the hour. But I
see. Yeah, that was a giant value bomb right there. If I could have had some special effects, I'd be dropping them right now. So well, I don't believe in that hourly for anybody. I don't even care if you are a drill sergeant type of person. It's not going to work. You're going to have high turnover. Nobody wants to be policed. And as you discovered, I forgot, 15, 7 left, you had 8, or the other way around. Uh-huh. So you got rid of the, unmotivated people, and you empowered 8 little business people, and they went out. And so that's where your quality, everything would have improved from there. Not that it was bad before that.
Absolutely.
But now you actually put it in their hands and they had a incentive and motivation to deliver to that customer. So that's a brilliant package right there. And I hope people listened all the way through to this point, because that right there is gold.
Nobody ever has to ask for a raise in my company. It doesn't work like that. They make their raise, and they get paid for they get paid by production for their production. Like in the state of California, you must pay an hourly wage. It's just the way it is, right? So I pay my journeyman minimum wage, but man, their bonuses are very large. Sometimes a couple $1,000s a week.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you empowered. You got go-getters now instead of ho-hum workers. Gosh, I forgot where I was going.
And the retention is really great. I mean, the average is 5 to 10 years is the normal amount, if not higher. I mean, we've had people for 20 years in my company because why would they could, and also we let them do side jobs. That's another thing that's important to know. Like we literally will let them use our truck. Go take our truck, use our tools, do what you need to do. Let us know each time you do it, but we're not going to charge you a penny. Okay. Just go do a side job. And so imagine an electrician that's already made $2,000 for a week of work for like 40 or 45 hours, whatever they work, right? Now imagine that they go off and they do a side job and they make $800 or $900 on the weekend. Like my guys, this is LA. It's about the most expensive housing you can have anywhere. And my guys buy houses. They have families. The thing that I always wanted for everyone that works in my company is a real life, that the company produces income. The whole point is the money so that they can then have a lifestyle that they enjoy and they have time to enjoy. Yeah. So we try to keep it down to 40 hours. But if somebody wants to work on the weekend and make another $800 or $1,000, they can do that. That's beautiful.
Too. They want to take a vacation, get a car, buy another house, whatever. They can start side gigging on the weekend. Kim, It's true. Go ahead.
I just want to tell you one thing. I had this electrician that showed up one day and he says, "Hey, Kim, check out my new car." I go outside and he's driving a Maserati.
Say, hold on a second. Wait a minute. Oh, that's fantastic.
I am driving a Camry, But
that's
anyway,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Do the customers get assigned at all to a specific service tech? Is that even possible? Or a geographic area or something like that? Do they get to go back to the same customers at all, or it's always whoever's available?
Oh, you mean does the journeyman get assigned to a certain customer? So, well, yeah, we have certain customers like certain journeymen because they've had a good experience with them, so they may ask for that person, and then we try to do that. But a lot of times we're booked out 2 or 3 weeks. We can't.
Next available, yeah.
But there are relationships with management companies. Like, let's say a journeyman has rewired 100 different apartment buildings in one. Well, not buildings, but units in a building. Right. Yeah, he's going to go back to handle. Now they want outdoor lighting or something.
Right.
Once a relationship's established, that can happen.
Especially a job like that. They know that guy and they they probably have a good relationship and because they're calling you.
But typically they'll know 3 crews. A company that's because we've been out there so often that generally we always try to have a redundancy in our service.
Yeah, brilliant. You mentioned your dispatch software, and I'm sure it does a lot more. So your operating system, do you use House Call Pro or Service Titan or something like that? Or
yeah, not those two. Let's see. We have iFleet, and it's Smart Service is what it is. In the office, it's called Smart Service. In the field, it's called iFleet. Both are tied in with QuickBooks, so it works all together, including an electronic price book that we developed over the years.
Nice. Does it give the service tech the ability, if they're in the field and I don't know, there's some kind of new purchase to show a good, better, best, or is the house call guy good, better, best options? Does it give them options at all?
No. I'll tell you what I stay away from is trying to get the guys in the field to be salesmen. Now, this is something that a lot of companies do, or some companies do if they're organized. I found that journeymen are not salesmen very much. I agree. They don't really want to be.
Right.
Sometimes there's a natural salesperson that's out there.
Right.
But generally speaking, they just want to do the job and they want to help people. And then they just look in the price book and see what that's going to cost. And that's about as far as it's going to go. I don't play these games with that. I know what you're talking about. And
Yeah, I agree. Most service techs are not going to, they'll be uncomfortable doing sales. They won't be good at it, probably. You're right. There'll be the occasional person who excels at it, very personable. And so now you got this weird vibe going on with the homeowner, right? Because they're doing something they're uncomfortable with, and the homeowner will feel salesy. And
I would pick it up right away. I'd say, I see, I'm being overcharged. I get it.
Yeah, I agree.
As an example of how it runs, a customer calls because we were referred by Tesla. So they call or they email. Mostly it's about email these days, especially Tesla type people. They're into tech.
Right.
So they'll run into a program that actually gives them a pricing on a program. Like they literally can just answer some questions. Then they get an email back with a price quote already.
Nice.
And then they're asked, if you're interested, give us a call. We'll finalize it. So then they call us and we give them a price over the phone for that job. It's a price estimate and it's in writing when we get to the job. And if the number of feet between the main panel and wherever they're going to put the charger is the same, and if it's the same, this and that, it's exactly that price. But if it's not, my electrician can say, well, ma'am, you said it was 14 feet, like it's 97 feet, it's, it's a per foot price. And so this is the price. And we rarely disagreement once we can show them by measurement, that kind of thing. So
I love
the guys are good at tech. They're good at communicating what they were told it's going to cost. And this is why it's going to cost this much. But they rely on the price book a lot. If the price changes, there's a logical reason. They're willing to do that and able to do that quite well. And the dispatchers are very well trained on giving out prices over the phone. So we have I would say a 99%, maybe 1 out of 100 jobs, if even that, we don't do once we sent an electrician out there. We do over 100 jobs. Let's just say we do 100 jobs a week. There are weeks and weeks that go by that we don't have a single disagreement when we get out to a job.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good system. Think about all that time it saves of people having to go out and give bids and all that kind of craziness.
Oh, God. When did you operating system? When did that start for you? Because a lot of guys don't have that, and I keep saying that's like it's a big job to create that, integrate everything, get your price book in there. But can you imagine your business without that software systems right now?
I can imagine it because we had it at one point. I have a field production manager named Hugo, and he really resisted a really long time this idea of having a price book. But before we had an electronic price book, I hammered out a written price book that people would literally go to the job site with this, like a notebook filled with all these different prices and whatnot.
Beautiful.
And then they would find one. Then they would handwrite on an invoice, that by hand they'd have to fill it all out and everything. And it evolved into an electronic price book, and it's so great because we can change it at will. And that, thank goodness, because with COVID and the supply issues, the price of wire went up, tripled sometimes in various things. So
holy moly, I didn't know triple.
Electronically, we can change it in 1 hour.
Yeah, and it propagates out to everybody's device in the field. Everybody is on the same
instantly. Yeah. Right. So then they don't even need to know. Our electricians don't even need to know the prices. They just need to see what the price book says the overall job.
Right.
We tie it all together. Like if it's like installing a wall charger, for instance, there's many things that go into that price, but the price is waiting for them.
Exactly. All the different jobs, subcomponents of that job, they're touching in, and there's a final price. Yes?
Yeah, but they don't have to touch in all the sub stuff. See, we do that that's my point is we can change one of those sub prices and it affects the global price. And the only thing the electrician sees is the global price.
Gotcha. So they're clicking on whatever, EV charger installation. Right. And everything, all the subcomponents are in there. And as you change them, the overall price changes.
Yeah. Like if we say we're going to install, let's just say we're going to install a 20 amp receptacle somewhere.
Right.
All they have to know is how many feet it is. What they don't have to know is the cost of wire, the cost of the receptacle, the cost of the circuit breaker, they don't need to know any of that stuff. We do.
Right.
So if the cost of circuit breakers goes up, we just make the price go up in that sub thing. But even better than that, we know that circuit breaker is one of the components. Let's say we have 5,000 things in our price book and like 112 of them have to do with a 20 amp circuit breaker. All 112 change immediately.
Yeah, it's awesome. Got to get it automated. So let's wrap it up here. Kim, what advice would you give someone who's just starting out in a service business? Solar, plumber, electrician, roofer, doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay, number one is, I guess you start with the individual. Now this is just I'm going to say one more thing before I give advice. I'm going to give an example of what I don't advise, but there are people out there that they can't help themselves. This is their personality. I know of a relatively, if you want to call it that, successful business model. I don't think they make as much profit as me, but this is what they do. They literally charge 3 times what my company charges. They literally do that. So if we charge $300, they will charge $900.
Yep.
They don't have a lot of repeat business.
Right.
They have a lot of upset customers.
Right.
Sooner or later, they find out they've been ripped off.
Yep.
So the thing is, they have to continually advertise. But if they live in a big city, if their company is part of Los Angeles, which is one of the biggest areas in the world, they can continually advertise for new suckers, really, these poor little old ladies or whatever they're doing. And they do. And they throw a huge amount of money into marketing and a huge amount into promotion. You'll see them at the top of everything. Google paying like $36 for one click for electrician or something, and then they go out there and they make their electricians sell jobs and try to talk people into stuff and scare them. And they charge money to come give the bid. So now you're kind of trapped like, well, I better just, In the end of the day, though, like all that money goes away.
Yep.
Like all that's left is maybe the same. Maybe it's 10% profit for that same job.
Yeah.
Maybe it's only 5% profit.
Yeah, the promotion is so expensive.
But the owner of that company, and I can think of 2 of them right now, they can't help themselves. That's the way they work. And I've had a couple of their electricians come work for me because they couldn't stand it anymore. And they weren't even paid anymore. They were paid less than my electricians. So the point is, it works though for that guy. And a couple of them I know about, they have lawsuits all the time, just going on and on, but they somehow are managed to mostly stay in business. One of them got kicked off Google a couple of weeks ago. I noticed that.
Sure, you get bad reviews.
Because you have to hire people to make bogus reviews.
Right. Yeah, they're cheating like crazy.
You can tell when it's one of these companies, it's like 5-star review, 1-star review, 5-star review, 1-star review. They pay for the 5-star.
Yeah, they got 5 Google My Business listings, and all kinds of, they're cheating everywhere.
Right. So that if you're going to operate like that, if the entire system is integrated and fits, maybe you can do it. But I can't give advice for people like that. So this is only for people like me that I could give advice. So it starts with being honest and competent, really liking people and really wanting to put out good products that you're proud of, that you want your kids to know that you did this, or your neighbors. You just want to be a decent human being and you want to create something in the world that's nice. So happy people and good electrical products is what you want. So as an electrician, now, if you're a roofer, you don't want to skimp and, maybe the roof will leak and then you don't want to call the customer back. You don't want to do that. Right. Just want to be the kind of person that is a quality person that returns phone calls, whether you wanted to that day or not, like that. Okay, now if you're that person, the next thing is you've got to be really good and competent at your trade. Whatever that trade is, do that. Okay. Third thing is you got to be legal. So if that means you got another wait a year or 2 to get your contractor's license, then wait, because do some side jobs where you can do it for less than $500 or whatever it is that you can do. But don't try to start a business without legal rudiments being in, and then pay attention to those legal rudiments. These are all like the basic foundation with which
100%
to start. And if you start like that, then you need to, what people say, well, go knock on doors now. But really, like, get yourself a good website. That's the next thing I would say. It all goes back to your website, whether you've got business cards, whether someone sees your truck drive by. Doesn't matter. Neighbors say you should try Joe's Plumbing. They're going to look up Joe's Plumbing on a website.
100%.
So that's an important aspect of things. And then answer your phone. This is the number one thing that contractors don't do. And I know I have a second business that does internet marketing for contractors. I cannot believe how often contractors will not answer their phone or have a phone system that works where that customer immediately gets resolved. That will triple somebody's business if they're not doing that. And then from then, you just do what's natural. Now you just tell the people what it would cost to do the job and go do the work, and you learn as you go.
Yeah, yeah, great advice. And a much happier, simpler life. Those two examples, those guys who were spending a fortune on promotion, caught in a never-ending cycle of doing that, right? Because they got to move on to the next neighborhood and so on and so forth. They're probably going to move themselves just to get closer to the service area.
Well, yeah, I don't think they advertise their home address. That's for sure.
But it's a terrible life, I don't know. They can't feel good. So all your advice is excellent. I think we did a episode 67, maybe. I did one called "Quality is Free." My dad gave me a book when I graduated high school called "Quality is Free," which basically was all about the best way to do the job is with the best parts, everything is superior. That is the cheapest way to do the job. Cutting corners, using inferior products, rushing the job, whatever corners you cut, those become the most expensive ways to do the job. You'll have to come back and redo work and so on and so forth. You'll get bad reviews, no referrals, so on and so forth. So doing it 100% all out for the consumer, for the customer, is the only way you should do business. And it's the cheapest way to do business. And you will feel tremendous, as a person.
And if you do that for a certain amount of time, as long as you have the kind of business where you're going to get repeat customers or you're not going to, you want to get those repeat customers. I'm number one in LA, which is arguably, and I suspect it's true, the largest city when it comes to electrical contractors in the world, because New York is big, but there's unions and other things. Tokyo doesn't have the same system. I'm telling you, LA is the premier place to be competitive. And I'm 3 times my page is showing up on Google, right? And I'm saying that because it keeps one crew busy. Right. That's what it does. One crew. I've got 18 more guys to deal with. Okay. That is repeat business and referred business. And that doesn't happen unless you are a fanatic about quality control.
Yeah, 100%. Otherwise, you're stuck in a promotion world, never ending. And that will catch up to you because you don't have control of Google ads and direct mail and radio ads, the prices. But you do have control over the quality of the work you do and the friendliness of it and cleaning up afterwards. Our last podcast was about the top 5 complaints from Consumer Reports consumers have about home service companies. And you're right, not answering the phone was number one.
Uh-huh.
So you got to be more than you're great at your trade. You have to take the customer as number one, and you have to learn all these other things to be a business manager. Awesome value, Kim. I can't thank you enough. That was fantastic. Where can our listeners connect with you online? Where can they look you up?
Yeah, good question. All right. I guess I'll just give out my company email address.
Sure.
I am finding it's funny because I've never done any kind of podcast or anything like that.
But you were awesome.
I'm pretty sure next year I actually have a lot of time on my hands now. So I'm probably going to start on the book by pretty much giving the ins and outs on how to run a contracting business. I think it'll work for most contractors that are subcontractors, maybe not necessarily general contractors.
I see. So, yeah.
Anyway, so I guess my email address would be Kim, Kim, and then the word electric and the word connection, kim@electricconnection.com.
Right.
And if that doesn't stick in someone's brain and they want to communicate a year from now, just type in electrician Los Angeles and you'll find the Electric Connection on there.
I love it.
On somewhere.
I love it. And the other thing that gets you at the top of all those Google searches is your 1,100 5-star reviews. So going back to the whole quality theme, you not only have your 30 years of referral business and repeat business, you have, as a result of all that quality, all those reviews that then, combined with good website content and SEO, get you free organic calls as well from Google. So my hat's off to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
and also, like, it's big fringe benefits. Like, there's a reason why, let's say, Solar City reached out to us like
right.
5 or 6, 7 years,
Right.
whatever it was. We did $1 million with them,
Right.
like the second year. We were them. We were that. That's who they went to. There's a reason we're number one referred by Tesla. It's because they have a system where after you do a job for one of their customers, you send in a report. And the quality reports, the quantity of quality reports is how they rate their electricians. So
right.
There's never an end to the repeat business, but also convincing large companies. Like, we're just about to become, there's this thing called the GSA, where it's government service something, I don't even know yet. All of the government buildings in Los Angeles were in line to become a vendor for them starting next year.
Congrats. That's great.
And you reached out to my company. You must have done something to decide to interview me to begin with, right?
Based on your reviews, by the way, Kim. So my team is instructed. They have a checklist, and great reviews on those platforms is number one. So that's how we found you from there. So yeah, great.
Right. So I would say, even if it's a small number of reviews, as long as they're good reviews, that's how you can off to a good start for small contractors, is start looking for those reviews.
Yeah. Well, I hope you do write the book, and I hope people, put it up on your website or something. Put a link to it on a different site if you do that or whatever. I'd like to check it out myself. So drop me an email also when you do, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, probably sometime the beginning of next year.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you, Kim. Great information for our audience. I really appreciate it. Hold on a second. I'll close it out. I hope our listeners got some helpful value from this interview. Thanks for sharing your time with us. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast so you get notified of future episodes. Feel free to share this episode on your social channels. We'll see you all in the next one. Good luck out there, and create a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Battle Plan Marketing Podcast. To power up your home service business, for show notes, visit battleplanmarketing.com/podcast. If you enjoyed our show, please share it on social. Until next time.